Hello, everybody, and welcome to Case Management Practice 1. This is end of week 10, the beginning of week 11, and Sonia and Marianne are here, and we'll be talking about the last of the assessments that are due, which are, I think the last one is the report, isn't it? Which is very easy, really. How can we help, Sonia? You've got a question.
Yes, I'm talking about question number 4. It says here, discuss any goals which did not work for your client. So my client was Kylie, and outline what you would do differently. But the thing is, if I read the outcome that is printed on here, there's some goals or referrals that were suggested by whoever put this together, but it's not what I've actually put through. Like, for example, they talked about going to meditation classes.
Yep.
That didn't work. So I didn't actually mention anything that in my case plan at all.
Okay.
I'm confused. So do I just talk about what I referred, and I don't know how to answer that.
Well, yeah, focus on, look, well, actually, because the response is going to be based on that document that you've got in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for that now for the, which appendix?
Case notes.
Is it the case notes? Where's the case
Page
note?
49.
Sorry?
Page 49, if that helps.
We're on that, are we? We're looking at that. Let me open that up, because I'll share that with everybody, and we'll make sure that we want the official one, don't we? Let's go down there. I'll be 1 second. Page 12, 49. Okay, good. Okay, so let's open that. I've lost everyone. Share the screen. Okay, good. So here we are, case notes, Kylie, page 49. So let's read through here first. And Kylie's agreed to attend counselling, the sexual assault counsellor at the community health centre. She attends weekly and is now joined a support group for Aboriginal women who have all had similar experiences to Kylie in foster care, institutional care, or at home from families. Kylie has identified the women's group as an important part of her healing and her support, and she stated she wasn't aware that this has happened to other people. Kylie has stopped drinking but is still reliant on medications or sleeping, as the counselling sessions have made the nightmares more vivid. Referral to the meditation group to assist her to relax has not helped, and she feels disconnected from the group and described them as white middle-class wanky women like at the school. Kylie's husband has taken time off work to help her care for her children. He returns to full-time work in 2 weeks. Kylie expressed concern about her ability to care for them. She states that she is going to ask for assistance from the Aboriginal Women's Support Group, but her husband isn't happy about the people being involved. Okay. So clearly the meditation didn't work necessarily as a strategy that is effective for Kylie. Not really sure about these case notes, because see, we got a referral from Aboriginal Services, so referring her back there makes very little sense to me. But putting that aside, she seems actually to be identifying as an Aboriginal woman, and that is important. And actually having somebody else recognise what she's going through is good. This meditation, I just put down the meditation didn't work. And how would you effectively address that, Sonia? What might we suggest? What is the meditation expected to do?
I suppose make her feel relaxed, and she's been having nightmares and not sleeping. Probably trying to connect back with herself, I guess.
So how might you ask her to try an alternative, or what might you do to suggest to Kylie she might still use those elements?
What, to continue on with it, you mean? Or
well, clearly there's a need for her to get some relaxation, perhaps in her life, and that's okay. That's important, but we might consider that given her mental health situation, that meditation is only a support mechanism. It's not necessarily going to be a primary way to address her problems. So if you had a client come, if I had this client come to me, I would follow a process. What might that process be? Kylie's not happy with the other participants in the group.
I don't know, could she like go to another group of people maybe?
Yeah, might do. Might be that. So you could suggest an alternative for her.
Yeah.
Is meditation a group activity?
Well, it's meant to be, not really, it's individual, but you might go along with a group of you.
You might want to learn how to do it, but if you've done it, you could invite her to, if she's interested in doing meditation, she can find out how to do it on YouTube.
Yeah, or an app on a phone or something, yeah.
Yeah, like that. So there's other ways to address the same problem. And so you might help her to go, well, maybe meditation is not a group thing anyway. And it actually provides some positive reinforcement, and that Kylie's able to make choices. Meditation might not actually be her thing. That might be your thing, So
we're actually going to use these notes then rather than our case plan for things that didn't
well,
work.
if you have to answer questions like that, use these notes. Case plan. Well, no, the case plan is only the case plan, right? Now, because there's no model answer for the case plan, and these notes are not necessarily linear in the way that you've written your case plan and then these notes follow on, because there is no correct case plan to answer. So from these notes, you might want to answer some questions. And if you go back to your case plan, it doesn't matter that you're not following on. You mustn't say this assessment must be based on your case plan. You mustn't. Okay. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. That's as long as you've responded to the questions in the assignment with some effective responses, that'll be good.
Okay.
So yeah, well, should we go through all of the questions? We should be able to go through the assessment.
And another question I had was, it's just on one client, isn't it? Because when you're reading the question, it says you just answer the questions based on the client that you interviewed. So just your one client, not all of them.
Yes.
Great.
Just do one. I'm just trying to find the questions form for that. Let's see. Sorry, getting all the emails now. That's a bad thing, isn't it? Okay, so here we go. So here's some. Let's go through the questions, and we might provide some responses for each one as we go through. We'll skim through them. Okay, so 750-word report, very short. So you're really looking at 50 words per answer. There's only 8 answers here. 50 to 100 words per answer. Outline how would you monitor the client's progress. This is generic. How would you monitor your client's progress?
I'd say by scheduling regular case reviews, having Kylie either come in by or I was just referring to my client, face-to-face or over the phone.
Yeah, and that's the same with all the clients. Yeah, over the phone is fine as well. Maybe even this day and age using Skype or something like that as well. Who knows? Okay, outline how you receive feedback from your client. Marianne, would you answer that?
You would ask your client or get a feedback survey at the end of your. Is it to do with the case plan, that question, or your overall what you have given the client support wise?
Well, good, Marianne. Well done, because I think I wouldn't have gone for both of those. You've hit both of them. Maybe both are correct. Actually, aim for two. So how would you receive feedback from your clients about their involvement with the case plan? And at the end of the support period, how would you get feedback from the clients about how they've interacted with your service, for example? So there's two elements there. So the first one, how would you respond for how they're going with the case plan?
Well, that would be in your weekly meetings or case review that you'd get feedback on how they're going.
Okay. In written form,
then,
you ask them for a feedback form every week?
Well, you just do like a check-in. That's what we do at work, is we
So
do
verbally,
a weekly check-in.
just verbally?
Yeah, and then as they're marking it off, you can fill out, like, because you do notes, you do case notes every time you see a client.
Yeah.
So basically everything goes into your case notes anyway.
Great. So if we use the case plan as our meeting agenda, sort of a general rough meeting agenda, we've got the case plan, we go through the case plan, say, hi Kylie, hi Aaron, how are you going on this part of the case plan? Have you visited the mental health service? Have you had a mental health assessment? Have you checked in with the GP? Have you done whatever the case plan is? And you go through the elements of the case plan based on the timelines, because they might not all be relevant. So for example, remember long term with Kylie, I think we sort of mentioned this a bit last week. Long term with Kylie, we're not going to say to Kylie, have you got your education sorted out, when that's a long term aim. And right now, we just want Kylie working on one or two elements in her case plan, because we don't want to overload her. So we're going to keep going every week, check in with Kylie and ask her how she's gone on a particular aspect of the case plan that is relevant within the timeline. Nice one. And Marianne, on to the last, at the end of the support period, how would you get feedback about that?
We do a feedback, like an evaluation feedback form.
Okay.
So, who was your caseworker, and how did you find the experience, and do you have any suggestions for improvement?
Great. And this week we're starting week 11, which is the case closure process. And as we're looking at case closure, we might want to mention this as well. You would have an exit meeting with your client. So you could go and ask the client as well, you know, very, very basically, you could say to the client, you know, how have you felt? Was there, what did you expect coming in? And has this met your expectations? And do you feel like this has been an effective process for you? And you work through what's happened with your client from the beginning through the support process to the end, and then you ask the client themselves just to reflect on how they've enjoyed the experience and how they felt more or less motivated or demotivated perhaps by the experience. And it depends on the client's presentation as to whether they might say, well, I felt very demotivated. I came in, I just want to get it all done in week one, and you've made me stretch it all out and it's taken a long time. But they might not be aware that that's how effective strategic planning works in achieving personal aims and goals. So you help them build that knowledge. And so different clients will present in different ways. So you'll go and have this exit interview, and then you might as well provide them with a documentary feedback response, or online even, where they can feedback about how they've experienced your support process. And more, this is a relevant and important aspect of providing support. When I first started out, that was never a given thing. People would just kind of come in, their support period ends, you'd say, okay, we've come to the end, thanks very much, shake them by the hand, say the door's always open if you want to come back, etc., etc. But now it's far more formal, and people provide a much clearer response, which is great for you in terms of getting feedback. Let me just shut my door.
You done your assignment yet?
Not this one, no. I'm getting there though. I don't think it should be too much of a struggle. No.
Okay, so should we next one? Which goals didn't work for the clients? Outline what you'd do differently. Let's have a quick skim through these other documents again. And we'll just check we're on, what page is that? 46. We'll go back to page 49. Oh, we've gone too far. Gone way too far there. Here we go. Let's skim through Aaron. And we're just going to work out try and identify what hasn't worked for Aaron. Aaron was referred to the adolescent psychologist at the local community health centre, where he was diagnosed with depression, severe anxiety. He had to wait for 4 months before getting an appointment, but now he's attending weekly sessions with the psychologist undergoing CBT. Progress is slower than expected. Aaron has been referred to a psychiatrist to be assessed for medication and to address his anxiety and depression. His mother continues to offer support, but as yet the father has not participated in any session to date. She also stated that her husband is now less critical of Aaron and was trying to communicate with his son, but didn't understand what had happened. She further explained that when Aaron was very young, they had a very close relationship, but this started to change when Aaron started year 10. Aaron started to mock his father and tell everyone he was an old fart, and that his father was very hurt by the constant criticism and didn't understand why Aaron had turned on him. You have now referred the family to a family therapist at the local community health centre, and the mother indicated that her husband had agreed to attend. Okay. So what has not worked for Aaron to some extent?
The psychologist appointments?
Good. Yeah, it's a slow process. So we recognise that we can't always get what we need immediately. I'm surprised that this has taken so long, but often given his presenting situation, I don't think he'd normally have to wait that long, because you might be able to identify imminent need if he's got severe anxiety and depression. You might put forward a very strong argument that he's at risk of self-harm, and an imminent assessment would be required. So I'd be advocating whoever's the case manager on this process didn't do a very good job. Sorry to say. Okay, so you'd actually not want that to happen. I wouldn't. If he was sitting there, to be honest, that case manager should be fired. I'm not joking about this, because what if Aaron had committed suicide in that period? He'd come for a service and it had taken 4 months to get that service provided. I think that's appalling. So that hasn't worked, but what has not worked in this case plan? The case manager. Sorry to say. There should have been an imminent mental health assessment, and I would not have referred him to an adolescent psychologist. He's 19 as well. He's 19, so being 19, I would have, one, not necessarily gone to a psychologist. I might have gone to a psychiatrist to check that there was no risk of self-harm, and to have that assessed. I would have also not waited for an adolescent psychologist. I might have gone to an adult because he's on the cusp as well, I would go to either or. And I would actually, I mean, you'd probably be fine if you went to Headspace. You'd probably get a very quick assessment. You'd go to the local GP just to get something checked out. But we know what we think about the GPs. Even then, I would even go to the GP. I wouldn't wait 4 months to work out what's been going on for Aaron. I'd want an official diagnosis. And especially because what hasn't been addressed in these case notes, the case manager has failed to address the issue of his imminent homelessness. He was about to be evicted by his family. So, yeah, maybe. Again, I'm not really very clear about these notes because, to be honest, you've referred the family to a family therapist. These are the case notes, and this would be after the case plan. And it says that the father has agreed to attend, but surely the tense is incorrect here. The attending would have had to have occurred, and the imminent homelessness issue is no longer being discussed. So bad luck for anyone who's dealing with that one in their assessment. Assessment 3, pretend that you did, Maria. No one will know. No one will.
Who wrote this assessment?
It wasn't me. I've written the update. I'm not saying anything. My job is just to help you get through it. Okay. So here we go, Maria. Yeah, they should sack that case manager. I promise you, that would be a very bad case manager to write those case notes, to have missed key elements of the case plan and the assessment. Oh my God. Anyway, place of interview, Maria's home. So Maria has not been regularly attending her counselling sessions with domestic violence. She stated that this isn't for her and she prefers talking to a local priest. As she understands, she's allowed her husband to move back home and has been to court to tell them to allow her husband to move back home. She states that she's worried about him as he's very quiet and he doesn't talk very much, except with his fists. He stated that it's all her fault. He got angry because she wasn't a very good wife, and that she said that he agrees she has now agreed to be a better wife, and her husband has not physically assaulted Maria since the return and the involvement of Domestic Violence Support Agency. And he was observed by the lunch during their meeting and a cup of tea every 10 minutes, asking for his lunch. He appears to be to still want control of her activities and still only allows her to go shopping. Parish priest has organised for Maria to come and see him once a week with her husband's permission. Maria is reluctant to join a support group. Seems fairly clear. And now you're looking for support with the Italian community, and the children have tried to get Maria to leave, but she still can't help herself. This bit, these notes are a lot more realistic. This is all too true, isn't it? That the victims of abuse keep returning to their situation because they don't see alternatives, which is very sad. So what's not worked for Maria?
Well, she's not left him.
So, say again, Sonia, she's not what?
She's not left him, so he's come back.
Okay. We're not really clear. We're not really clear that that is the support plan, though. That might be our... See, this is an interesting thing. This is where culturally we have to step backwards. Because everyone here is going, leave him, he's a bastard. And you all root for your client to go, you know, come on, how often? But it doesn't matter. You can't really, and you shouldn't counsel your client in that way to go and leave. You should say, Maria, what do you want to do? And if she says, I don't want to leave him, you have to support that decision. And
Of course.
yeah, exactly. So the most we can do is try and be supportive for Maria and help her and advocate for her with her family. And you see this guy's obviously very controlling. I'm actually thinking aged care assessment for him as well. I'd be wanting an aged care assessment considering he seems to be, you know, not only controlling, but he's just going, give me a cup of tea every 10 minutes. Where's my dinner? I'm wondering if he might be losing his cognitive ability a little bit. So anyway, I'd be thinking about that. Think about some home help as well. If he gets assessed as having a support requirement, he might be eligible for an aged care package, and a little home help might come in to relieve some of the pressure. And the benefit of that is, as a victim of domestic violence, you've got a witness coming in the house and somebody who's maintaining contact all the time, which is really important in this case. So I kind of like that. Maria's not sticking with her domestic violence counselling, so that's not working out. The local priest might be her best bet. Now, yeah, so what do we think? Maria, probably very resilient, somebody who's been a victim, somebody who's raised a family, somebody who's travelled from one country to another with speaking a limited language, probably quite a resilient person. And she's making choices that we have to support. We don't agree with. Anything you think we've missed there? She's still isolated. She's still controlled. And that is really the point. We haven't engaged her to try and wrest control of her own situation. She's almost a slave, isn't she, in her home? We might want to advocate around that. We could talk to her about that and maybe have supports from the local Italian community come and do that for her. Anyway, let's go back to the questions. 46, here we go. Okay. So we've talked, now we're going to balance out what you wrote in your case plan as to what you would do differently now. But this is based on what hasn't worked. So again, not really very clear what hasn't worked for the client, and what would you know in this scenario, by the way, given the case note.
Well, with Maria, I recommended DV counselling.
She won't do that. She's had that, but she hasn't. Sorry, Maria, I think I've misstated this. Let me explain again. Reading the case notes we've just read about the 3 clients and seeing what hasn't worked in the case notes, what are the recommendations you make? Which is kind of my original question with Kylie. How would we address Kylie's problem with meditation? How would we address Maria's problem with domestic violence counselling? She doesn't want to take that. She's seeing the local priest.
Well, long term, I also put, because I put the priest in there as well, as an immediate to kind of get her some kind of support. But I put as a long term goal to get her linked in, like around here, there's a daycare program, and it's called Day Something, and it's for older Italian people to get out and get socially, and I've put it as a social inclusion goal.
But Marianne, her husband won't let her out the house.
Well, could you suggest maybe both of them go?
Nice one. I like that. I think it's a fantastic idea. Very good. That's one solution, to include both of them. I never thought of that, actually. Very nice response, that, Marianne. Very good indeed. What other things could we suggest? I think there's something missing here. I think we're missing a process that needs to occur.
What about, oh no, because the DV would be individual counselling. I don't know, I'm lost, I'm gone.
Sorry, my dog is saying, can I have the food on the counter, please? I'm saying, no, you can't. That's my lunch. Sorry, Marianne, say that again. What about what?
I'm lost.
What about a case conference involving all the parties, including maybe the husband?
Great. That is really good.
What if the priest came along? What if the DV support worker came along and we all said, and we came along, we all sat down and said, we're here to support your family. We want to help address these problems. And Maria's mentioning this is an issue and we need to actually think about. And so things like Marianne's excellent suggestion of the husband and wife participating in activities together, that might help bond their relationship a little bit more. And it might make her husband a little more accountable in terms of where other people are seeing him with his wife. So that might be a good way of... Anyway, so nice. Okay, so what about with Aaron? What can we do differently with Aaron? Aaron's quite, given this case notes, which are bloody awful. Sack the caseworker, 1. Get a new caseworker in, 2. That's what I would recommend. And what would you do differently with Aaron?
Well, I did everything differently with Aaron. So I'd be hoping that the outcome they're now trying for is what I already put in the original case plan.
Which is
so
what?
How could you? So I put immediate was like mental health assessment with Headspace. And then I put family and individual counselling, and then family. And then I put like long-term goals would be looking at reiteration into TAFE and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Well, yes. I've got to say, if we read his notes, nothing has really happened in those notes, have they?
No.
So it says some months, taken 4 months. So he's been a support client for 4 months, been festering away in his bedroom. Makes no sense. But look, don't worry about that. Moving on. Outline the complex nature of your client's case's impact on your work as an assistant case manager. So as the assistant case manager, you're going to focus on, basically this answer is a personal answer that you're being asked to deliver about how this learning process of working through these cases has developed your understanding of case management for clients with complex needs. So these are personal answers. So what might you answer? How would you answer?
Not having enough information. I see. That's what makes it difficult.
So say that again.
Not having enough information, I don't think.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, not that, but no, I think you misunderstand. As you've gone through this course, and as you've worked through the assessments and the case planning and the review, and now this is kind of the review and the case closure, as you've done that, now, how do you feel about your involvement as an assistant? Okay, what do you think about working with these? Have you learned anything as a student about working with these clients with complex cases? Do you understand what I mean? Complex needs.
Mm.
Are you more confident? Do you feel more capable? Do you feel resourced? And do you feel you've learned anything? And if so, what have you learned? That's sort of the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you learned, Marianne?
I've learned how to do case manager. I've learned how to do case notes and how to structure a goal plan based on the needs of the client and how to prioritize, analyze and then prioritize in what immediate goals and what would long-term goals be and that sort of thing. So I've learned heaps. I've actually basically learned how to do what a case manager does, and it's given me the confidence and the competence to be able to do so.
Good, write that. And then write Simon was a really good teacher after that. No, don't. That is good. One thing we haven't really done, though, let's be clear about this, is we haven't learned about how to write case notes. That really hasn't been part of this course. We've learned about the structural element of case management, but we haven't really learned case note writing, which is specifically important. You know, for example, we just saw an example of an awful case note. Sort of, those weren't real case notes. If they were, you know, you'd be having a crack at those people as well. So what have we got? Something like that. What about you, Sonia? Have you learned a lot through this process? Is there something you've better?
Well, I guess I've learned to sort of think outside the box a little bit, come up with alternative solutions or ideas, and not think so sort of one way, I guess.
Good. And really, the fastest way between A and B is important. Not necessarily waiting. If we see with Aaron this idea of, you know, process, let's just wait 4 months. He might kill himself. No. You know, we'll just wait. That's crazy. That's not. Anyway. So, review the case strategies and resources you used in working with your client, and make recommendation for changes if appropriate. Identify what worked and what did not work. You may include the pro forma used and the requirements of your centre. So basically, some of these questions, don't worry too much about them, because some of these questions are related to something like a workplace testimony from your management, or a reflection on your workplace or your placement in a working scenario, which may not have occurred for you. And so I don't really want you to think too much about this, but just write down what are the key elements of the case management process. So through the intake, procedures and assessments, case planning, reviewing, evaluation, monitoring, case reviews, and then case closure, following and recommendations, referrals to alternative support agencies, and case closure. That should be enough if you wrote something about that. And outline how you would close your case and when you would initiate this action. So let's talk about that. That's a good one to end with, because this is the beginning of the case closure process this week. So let's talk about that. You may not have done the learning for this yet.
Would you initiate closing once the goals have been reached and you can see the clients becoming a little bit more self-reliant and not so much in need of support?
Great. That encapsulates it perfectly, Marianne. Well done. Yeah. Yeah, great. So when they're able to maintain independence and you've identified that you've worked through the case plan. Now let's think about a number of scenarios for this, because I think this is important. Nothing ever runs smoothly because people's lives are here, and often we have clients with very complex needs who are not very capable of their lives running in an orderly process. So things always come in. So you might have young clients who are involved with juvenile justice, and you might come across them and you might be referred to pick up these clients through a justice program, for example, and they might become incarcerated and just exit your program that way. And or somebody might just not engage. And so think about that. If somebody doesn't engage, you set a case plan, you say come in every week. After about 3 weeks, they stop coming in. You try and contact them, you make some calls, they don't pick up. What do you do? So what would you do? What do you think?
You would obviously try and contact them, and then maybe just if you get no contact, write a letter saying that you're closing the case.
Yeah, beautiful.
And keep it all on file. And
yeah, keep the letter on file, write a case note, case closed due to non-participation in non-engagement. It's that simple. You don't really write a lot more than that. So what if somebody, you were working with a young person on a range of complex needs, and then they become incarcerated through the juvenile justice program? What would you do there?
Would you just put it in the case notes, the outcome of it, and I don't know, leave it at that?
Would you have to contact the people involved, the support, the people involved?
Now, again, this is how long is a piece of string in a way, because all organisations work in different ways, and you might have different support remits depending on your job, your organisation. You might have, whether an older person or a young person has been incarcerated, you might have a responsibility to maintain some flow of information. And it could be something really nothing. You think it's somebody made an ashtray out of clay in an art support club, and then they were sent to prison. And I've seen where people might say, here you go, you forgot to take this with you, my friend. And that's their possession. It's something they might feel quite strongly about, but we don't care about that. What we really care about is maintaining a positive engagement with the client. Even though they've gone away and they're not able to engage in the process, that's not necessarily their own choice. And so you might sit with them and visit them in their institution and say, here's your ashtray, my friend. And you're welcome to come back, and so you close the case, but you leave the door open for some re-engagement if that's still appropriate. Maybe not. If your support agency is really emergency based, you'll just close the case, and there may be no reason for you to go and visit. So that will depend. But think about that as an option. You might want to think about properly having a correct meeting where somebody's received support. When you stop providing support, there can be an adjustment period where people are, and it's again surprising, lots of people very capable of being independent. They were independent before and they could be independent afterwards, but the adjustment period can shock people when you pull the rug out and they think, I'm freewheeling here, and maybe not. So if we talk about the case closure process, what happens there? Oh, maybe we've run out of time, and it's an excellent opportunity to come back for the final installment of Who Wants to Be a Case Manager? And we can start answering some of those questions next week. So
Awesome.
Before you close, just to recap, so question 4 and 5, we're using the case notes, not our case plan.
Use the case notes. Yeah, use the case notes. And don't look. I'm sorry, it's a bit messy because, this is. I apologise for them. I didn't write this. I've inherited this program, but we'll fix it up. It'll be fine. Just as long as you've answered something in respect to these questions, you'll be fine. Honestly, I think you'll cover it perfectly. You've got plenty of information here.
Okay.
So don't worry so much.
Okay. Thank you.
This is almost impossible to fail, this one. Just right, and a lot of it's personal. Some of it's personal stuff. So we'll be back again on. Is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow evening to discuss this process. And we'll be back tomorrow evening and next Sunday. And I think next Sunday might be the last one. Might be the Wednesday after. Not many people will be turning up after this. Great, thank you. You have a lovely Sunday.
Yes, you too.
Time to go and get
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, fellas. I better stop recording.